All right, boom. We're back with another picks video, this time for UFC 255, Figueiredo versus Alex Perez. As many times as I try to say that last name, I still butcher it every time. But Deiveson Figueiredo, obviously on a tear right now, facing Alex Perez, who's stepping up for Cody Garbrandt. I am joined by Mason Shatwell from the UK. He has a podcast, the Sports Sesh podcast. It's on YouTube. And if you don't, make sure you follow him on Twitter. It's MMA Mason. Man, how you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. Cheers for having me. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'll just give a little bit before we start, a little bit of a breakdown of how you started your podcast and how it's going so far.
Well, basically, I think back in June, me and my co-host were both writers for another MMA website over here in the UK, and we thought it'd be a fun idea to start a podcast so we can interview other sports stars. So we gave it a go. We did a couple of episodes on our own, and then we started getting the guests on. And since then, from the UFC, we've had the likes of Mason Jones, Sam Alvey, Joe Selecki, and Matt Frivola. So we've had a fair few guests on, and I think we're 1 or 2 episodes away from our 30th episode.
Oh wow, that's good. When did you start
it? Back in June of this year.
June. Yeah, I started in March, and it's fun because like there are times where I'm like, I don't really want to do one, and then I'll schedule one in, and right afterwards I'm hyped on another level. I'm like, I mean, I can't wait to do another one. It's so much fun to do, and I guess for people like us who necessarily a year ago weren't even doing it, definitely try it because it is fun, and the people you speak to are really cool, and the entire MMA community is really, really awesome. So, man, it's good to see that you're doing it, and and I'm glad it's going well.
100%. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, so we're gonna do the entire card here for UFC 255. It was supposed to be very, very stacked with Robbie Lawler obviously falling out, as well as Cody Garbrandt. Either way, it's we've got a doubleheader, 2 title fights. So not the worst card of the year. Definitely wouldn't say it's the strongest, but man, we'll take it. We'll take anything we can get at this point.
100%. We've just got to be thankful we've got some fights to watch.
Exactly. So starting off, we've got a welterweight bout with Louis Cosce, who's fighting Sasha Palatnikov. Louis Cosce obviously had that huge win on the Contender Series. His brother Ariane was supposed to fight on the card as well, but he had to pull out due to an injury. So, man, who do you have for this one?
Well, I think this is quite an exciting fight because I know Louis is undefeated. I think at the time of recording now he's 7-0, and every fight he's finished. So it's either been a TKO, knockout, or submission for the man. And he's a very dangerous fighter. No disrespect to Sasha, but I don't see him having too much of a chance against Louis. I think Louis is going to go in there, try get it done early, but I think Sasha's toughness will come out in this fight. And I'm going for a Louis 3rd round TKO, but I think with people thinking a knockout, I think they might think it's a very dominant display, but it could be. But we can't count Sasha out. He's a hell of a fighter.
So yeah, I mean, Sasha, like you said, he's very, very good, very dangerous. His record is very deceiving. He's 5-2. He fights out of Hong Kong, which is going to make him the first Hong Kong fighter ever to compete in the UFC, which I think is a neat fact. I've spoken to both guys, so I have had an idea of what to expect. Louis Cosce obviously brings a ton of excitement and a ton of confidence. And one thing especially recently, is the more confident you are, the better, as long as it doesn't get into arrogance. And both him and Ariane possess a ton of confidence, and I think that's going to be key. I spoke to Sasha as well, and he's happy to be here. He moved to Syndicate MMA in California, so I think he's got the right training behind him. He's trained entirely in Hong Kong, which doesn't have the best training, but I just think it might be too much too soon for him. I think he's a high level fighter. One of his losses is to Munir Lazez, which no slouch, but man, Louis right now is just based on what we've seen so far. Louis is going to go out there and he's going to get it done. I do think he's going to get it done early. But regardless, man, I'm just hoping for an exciting fight. And I think whether Sasha loses or wins, I think he deserves to stick around for taking this fight. He took it on short notice too. So, but Louis Cosce, I think he gets it done. I think he gets it done early.
100%. I didn't know that the fact where you said Sasha was the first Hong Kong born fighter to fight in the UFC, and for that reason, I'd like to see him stick around just to give Hong Kong a name in the mixed martial arts world.
Yeah, exactly. It really is nice to see, especially that it could open up the doors for the UFC to go to Hong Kong. I know they've been there before, but they don't necessarily have any fighters from there. So hopefully he's the first of many. It's definitely nice to see when a guy comes in. The same sort of thing is happening with India. They had that one fighter come in, and now you're seeing they even have an organization over there. So even though it's kind of hidden, a guy like that making his way to UFC is huge for the world in mixed martial arts.
Definitely. And
then we'll jump into Kyle Daukaus, who took that fight on short notice against a very dangerous Brendan Allen. I think I'm getting the right Daukaus. Chris, yeah, I got the right one. He was fighting Dustin Stolzfus, who had a very impressive performance on the Contender Series. What do you have for that one?
Well, I'm probably going to say it a lot because I've said it in quite a few shows I've done about this card. All the fighters on air have the ability to be fight of the night contenders, but if that happens, it remains to be seen. But this one, I'm quite looking forward to. I think Kyle's got the ability to knock you out and submit you, which if a fighter can do both, it's going to be a dangerous fight no matter what. I think Dustin, no disrespect, I think it's going to be a really tough fight. And I think Kyle's ground game is going to be the deciding factor in this. I think the first round he's going to try a feeling out process, would you say, and get comfortable. Second round, I think he's going to try to take him down, and then third round, I think he's going to take him down and submit him. So I'm going for a Kyle Daukaus by a third round submission.
Yeah, that's the exact same breakdown I have. I don't know if it's going to be submission, but I think the longer the fight goes, the more it favors Daukaus in this one. The majority of Dustin's victories are early. But Kyle showed that he can hang in there with a guy like Brendan Allen. Obviously, Brendan Allen didn't have the best performance last time out, but Brendan Allen, for me, I think is a top 15 middleweight. So I think he's going to go out there, and I think he's going to get it done. I think he's going to weather that early storm and get it done late. I don't know if it's a submission or TKO or decision, but I think the longer it goes, the better it is for Kyle.
100%. I totally agree. I think either way, with any fight, all you can ask for, wish for is an exciting fight. And I think this one, it could be, but at the other hand, it could be a very, very dominant display by Kyle. But it just depends which Dustin shows up, because we know both guys will go in there and give it their all. Well, that's all we can hope for. But yeah, I'm going for the Kyle third round submission.
All right, and then we've got Alan Jouban, he's lost 3 of his last 4. But he's taking some time off, and he's coming back, and he's facing a Jared Gooden, who a lot of people have been high on. He was supposed to fight Dwight Grant, my boy Dwight Grant, a little while ago. So now he's making his UFC debut. It's a tough UFC debut, but who do you have for this?
Well, I'm quite looking forward to seeing Jared in there. As you say, Alan, fortunately, 3 of his last 4, I think you said, he hasn't come away with a victory, and I think that could harper his confidence going into the fights, knowing he's not in the best of runs. And when a fighter's got even the slightest bit of confidence knocked off, I think you can't go in. You've got to go in there with 100% confidence. And I think he will have confidence in his abilities, but I think it's going to be hard knowing that he's on the run that he's on. But with Jared, I just think he's a different type of fighter. I think the submission game of him is very good. He's got really strong hands. So again, like the last fight, he's got the ability to knock you out and put you to sleep via submission. And I think it's going to go into the second round. I think the first couple of minutes is going to be a bit of a feeling out process, again, like most fights. But then I think after the last few minutes in the round, I think Jared is going to get his way in the fight. And then hopefully for my predictions, it's going to go for a Jared Gooden via second round submission.
So we finally have one that's different. I mean, I think Alan Jouban is stylistically a bad matchup. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of power. You saw what he was able to do to Ben Saunders. It was a declining Ben Saunders, but he's got a lot of power in his hands. And even to think that Dwight Grant is a guy who has a ridiculous amount of power, and they fought to a split decision. And I actually thought Jouban won it. But it just shows that he's got a hell of a chin. He can take a lot of damage. On the other hand, Gooden has lost by knockout. And I think Jouban is going to be able to capitalize on that. And I think he gets it done. But like he said, especially when these guys are making their UFC debut, we really don't know what they offer. The guy could be an absolute killer, and we won't know until he fights. Or on the other hand, he could come in and be awful. So you never know, especially with guys outside the UFC. But I just think, that Alan Jouban is just a step above right now. But I could be wrong, and we'll find out Saturday night.
Let's hope. Like we say, all you can hope for is a good fight. And if both guys go in there and give it their all, you can't complain, because they're putting everything on the line, risks and all, and especially during these unprecedented times. So with every fight, all you can do is give the respect for going out there and fighting during these times.
Yeah, definitely. Big fight next. Nicolas Dalby, who was supposed to fight a guy I had mentioned a couple times in Orion Kosi. Obviously, change of opponents. Good news for Nicolas Dalby. His last loss was just overturned due to a suspension, a drug suspension cut for, I think it was Jesse Ronson. Yeah. I just want to confirm. I don't want to say the wrong name here, but
I think it was that.
Yeah. So good news there. His last loss is no longer a loss. It was Jesse Ronson, and he's fighting a very, very dangerous Daniel Rodriguez, who is on a tear right now. Very, very good, man. These welterweights are scary. I mean, you've got him. You've got Munir Lazzez, who's the guy that just knocked out Razak last week. Why am I blanking on his name?
Yeah, I think my mind's gone blank as well at the moment.
But yeah, like these guys have so much power. They're so talented, so good. Any of these guys could break into the top 15. And Nicolas Dalby's got a ton of experience on. He's fought in the UFC before. He got released, fought his way back. He got back here. He's a lot to prove. But man, when these guys are confident and everything is going their way, it's hard to go against them. And for that reason, I think Daniel Rodriguez is able to get it done. And I think he's able to put him away. I'm going to go second round Daniel Rodriguez finish.
I'd love to say I'd like to see Nicolas Dalby win, but I'd love to say he's going to win, but I just don't know, because this, like you said, it's his second stint in the UFC. After being released, he went back to the European promotion Cage Warriors, worked his way back into a UFC contract, and I just know we've not seen the best Nicolas Dalby we could see, and he's not performed to the best of his abilities in the UFC. And I don't know why. I think there's a lot of pressure anyway when fighting in the UFC, but after being released, working your way back up, and then going into the UFC for the second time, I think there's added pressure in that. And with Daniel Rodriguez, with his past fights, he's got very strong hands, and he's won his last 9 fights. He can knock you out and he can submit you. But I think for Dalby, it's going to be a very tough fight. I love watching Dalby when he was at the Cage Warriors promotion, but in the UFC, he's just been very below par compared to what the fans have seen of him before. And for that reason, I'm going for a Daniel Rodriguez decision win.
I like it, man. It's so hard to break down some of these fights. I mean, Daniel Rodriguez right now, all we see is power, but Nicolas Dalby, obviously the last fight didn't go his way, but the guy is durable. I mean, he's fought so many fights. He's seen it all. So, when you have that recency bias, it's really easy to lean towards Daniel Rodriguez. Had this been a fight ago for Nicolas Dalby, I might even say his name. So it's so hard. It's so hard to predict these fights, which makes it very exciting. And especially I find with the fight nights, it's really easy. It's a lot easier to pick because they tend to be one-sided. But for these big cards, they're so evenly matched.
Oh yeah,
makes it very difficult. But I'm excited for that one. The name I was trying to bring up was Chaos Williams.
Right.
We'll jump into the next one. Antonina Shevchenko, younger sister of the co-main event in Valentina Shevchenko. She'll be fighting Ariane Lipski. She's probably fighting for her top 15 ranking. If she loses it, she's likely out. For Ariane Lipski, it's a huge chance to jump into the top 15. So who do you have for this one?
Well, as you say, Antonia is the sister of Valentina, and it's always going to be hard having a older or younger sibling that's in the public eye a lot more due to the standard of fights they fight at. And no disrespect to Antonia, but she's not at the same level as her sister, and I'd love to see it, because it'd be good to see like a sibling again. I'm going to reference to the Diaz brothers. They were both there or thereabouts in the top of their divisions, and it's always good to see a family or anyone that are close in the top of their divisions. But this one would be a tough one if Antonina got to the top of the division. I don't know if she'd be able to handle it, but this fight, I think this is it. I don't think she's going to get past Ariane Lipski. With Lipski, she's got very strong hands, and as I was saying on another show earlier, I think with the UFC women's division at the minute, I'm not too excited for, because it's just there's not many people that are going to challenge us fight the champions. Like, I don't see many people challenging Valentina, Amanda, Weili Zhang, the girls like that. I don't think anyone's going to challenge them anytime soon and give them a run for the money. And I'm thinking Ariane Lipski is going to get a third round TKO.
Yeah, I've been back and forth on this one, and I literally just opened it up again, and I changed my mind. But it's so hard. It's so hard to pick this one. And the reason I changed my mind, I was originally leaning Lipski as well. Lipski's 2 losses are Molly McCann and Joanne Calderwood, who are very, very talented fighter. Both went to decision. She had 2 wins over Luana Carolina and Isabella de Padua. She has very, very high-level submissions, and she has some knockouts earlier on in her career. With Antonina, it's very, very similar. However, her losses are to Roxanne Modafferi via split decision and Katlyn Chookagian, who's obviously fought for the title and is competing later on in the evening, I think. Yeah, against Cynthia. So it's so hard to pick because both of them, I think, are on like opposite trajectories. Like, one is just going down right now, one's going up. But I do think Antonina, even though she's nowhere near the level of Valentina, she does have that, when you have someone like Valentina training with you every day, it's next level, right? Like, there's nothing that Ariane is going to offer her that she hasn't seen before. Valentina's got the best of everything in that division. Like, her wrestling is probably her weak point, and she's still better than the entire division at wrestling.
100%.
So it's so hard. But because of that one reason, I think I'm going to lean Antonina. I just think Roxanne and Katlyn really beat 99% of the division. So it's kind of hard for me to like hold those 2 losses over her, especially because the Roxanne one was so close. So I'm gonna go Antonina, and I think part of the reason too is like, why not make it a little bit different? You had one, I'll take the other.
Yeah.
So offer a little bit of variety, 2 different perspectives. So if I'm wrong, I'll just blame it on that reason.
Yeah.
And then we've got Knockout King, Knockout of the Year, Knockout of the Decade, Joaquin Buckley, who seems to be getting kicked out of every gym he goes to, and Jordan Wright, who had a huge win over, I think it was Ike Villanueva. Very, very good, very, very talented. He fought a lot of the regional scene over in Alaska and then competed in LFA. So this one's an exciting one. Jordan Wright's undefeated, so we really, very similar, until you get thrown into a fight with a guy like Buckley, we really don't know what you're made of. So it's really a chance for him to prove how good he is, and for Buckley, it's a chance to keep that highlight streak going. So who do you have for this one?
Well, as we've seen with Buckley's last fight, as you say, knockout of the year, knockout of the decade, nothing short of spectacular. When I watched that, I literally jaw open in that moment, and I'd love to see it again. But Jordan Wright, I think he's something different. I think we've got another prospect on our hands in Jordan Wright. He's undefeated. I'm pretty sure he's finished all of his professional bouts, and either by knockout submission. And I'm really looking forward to this fight because Buckley has the ability to knock Wright out, and vice versa. So I don't think it's coming out the first round. I've gone for a Jordan Wright first round TKO, but I think it's whoever lands first with them big hands, or again with Buckley a spectacular kick.
Yeah, it's a tough one because I don't think Buckley looked amazing against Impa up until that kick.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is, like you said, whoever lands that shot first. So I'm going to hold it. Like, it's hard because we don't know what we don't know what Jordan Wright's chin's made of, right? So we know that, I mean, Buckley got knocked out by Kevin Holland. He was getting pieced up the entire fight. So based on what we know, Jordan Wright wins this, I think. He possesses a lot of power. He has the ability to put out Buckley's lights. Same thing. Buckley has the ability to, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe Wright's got this granite chin that haven't had the chance to see yet. And I think a lot of people are going to be writing Buckley's name down because of that KO. And I think this may be one that's worth betting on because I do think Jordan Wright could go out there and shock everybody and make a highlight of his own. I think he's got the power to do it, and I have Jordan Wright winning it in the first. I think he's going to get it done early.
100%. I totally agree with you there, but I hope Jordan's chin does have the ability to absorb the punches just because I've chosen him, but I would not be surprised one bit if Buckley pulls it out.
Yeah, who knows? He could run off the cage like Anthony Pettis and knock him out with a spinning thing. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen, man? But I'm looking forward to it. I think this has got however long it lasts. I think this is going to be fight of the night. Yeah,
I think it. Yeah, as we said, every fight's got the ability, but I think this one more than the rest it's going to get the fight of the night. I just hope it could. Well, if there's a lot of knockouts, it could even get knockout of the night or performance of the night bonus. So hopefully for both guys, it is fight of the night, and then they're both coming home with the 50 Gs.
And another contender for fight of the night is probably the most exciting guy I've ever seen at flyweight, Brandon Royval. His last fight was unbelievable against Kai Kara France. Both guys were dropping each other with spinning stuff. It was ridiculous. He ended up getting the finish. I thought he was going to lose it. I also thought he was going to lose against Tim Elliott. Man, the guy's there. He's a contender. If he wins this fight, he's thrown his name in the hat. That being said, Brandon Moreno, he could have been the next guy in line. I personally thought he could have been ahead of Alex Perez. But either way, if he gets a win here, he's next in line. So who do you have for this one, Brandon Royval or Brandon Moreno?
I've got Brandon Royval because I love watching him. Last time, in his last bout against Kai Kara France, I did a show and I guessed the second round submission for Royval, and everyone didn't believe me. So that's why I'm quite confident in Brandon Royval to get the win. And I think it's going to be a very, very fast-paced fight. Both guys are very light on the feet, can knock each other down, they can submit each other. But I've got a feeling this is going to be a 3-round war. This, along with the Buckley fight, has the ability to be fight of the night. And I think them two fights are going to be the ones that are going at it for fight of the night bonus. And I'm going for a Brandon Royval via decision.
Yeah, this one I think is going to go to decision. I think a lot of people agree with that. I mean, Moreno's never been finished as a professional. He obviously had that loss on The Ultimate Fighter, but he's never been finished as a professional. And I think that's something that's different to most of Royval's opponents. Royval's exciting. He's a highlight reel. But I think Moreno's faced so many tough guys. I mean, Kai Kara France, Askar Askarov, Alejandro Pantoja, Sergio Pettis, Husier Formiga. He's fought so many high-level guys, and I think the only guy that we've really seen Royval tested against was Kai Kara France. Elliott was good. But he's nowhere near the guy he once was. And I love Tim Elliott. But for that reason alone, I just think Brandon Moreno's seen a lot more. He's experienced guys who can come out and throw fun, exciting stuff. He's fought guys who are good on the ground. He's fought guys that are good on the feet. So I think Moreno's just gonna use his experience. And I think he's gonna outsmart Royval to a decision.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, man, that fight could go either way. There's so many tough fights, and I don't know. I don't know who's gonna win that one, but I have Moreno too. So
I do think this is going to be a real contender for fight of the night, along with the Buckley fight. I think just because of how fast paced I think the fight is going to be, and it'll be great if it goes. Obviously, we like to see a knockout, we like to see a finish, but in a fight like this, I'm hoping for a decision. As if it's a good fight, fast paced, I'm hoping to see a full 15-minute war.
Yeah. I think we'll get it. I think we'll get 15 minutes of excitement for that one. Then we'll jump on to the main card here. Shogun Rua and Paul Craig. I'm going to start by saying I changed my pick yesterday because I spoke to Mike Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Mike Rodriguez. we were all like, yeah, Paul Craig's going to win this, and then he started talking, and within seconds I was like, actually, I think you're right. Who do you have for this one?
Well, Paul Craig is from Scotland, which is in the UK, and I'm a fellow Brit, so I'm loving this fight. I think the last time out, I think I edged it to Paul Craig, and Paul Craig's last fight came. I can't remember who he's against, but I know he won that fight via submission, and I think a hell of a lot of Paul Craig wins have come via decision. Submission, and I'm sure he's got very, very high level jiu-jitsu, but Mauricio Shogun, who are one of the many legends the sport of MMA has produced, fighting out of Brazil, a true legend to the Brazilian MMA game, and I think it could go either way. I think Shogun could get a decision, he could knock him out. I think Craig could get a decision, I think he's got the power to knock him out, but I don't see that being very likely. I think if his best bet to win for Craig is via submission, and I think Shogun would be to knock Craig out, because I'm not sure if Shogun could go a full 15 minutes and not gassed. I'm going for it. It might be the biased Brit inside of me, but I'm going for a Paul Craig via second round submission.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It really is, because we've seen it before, and it obviously was a draw. Very, very close. I had it the same way you did. I thought Paul Craig won, and that was someone who was rooting for Shogun in that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I never like to see veterans lose. I just a level of respect for guys like that. So I wanted him to win, and I thought he lost. It was a close fight, ended up being a draw. Great, we get to run it back. That being said, Shogun's only lost one of his last 7, and that was to Anthony Smith, who on a good night beats 95% of the division.
Yeah,
he really could have had the belt if he chose to accept it, but he chose to fight out on his shield against John Jones and lost it. But Shogun's just fought so many guys, and he's been hurt so many times. Against Tyson Pedro, he got hurt, came back, and won the fight. Against Little Nog, I thought he lost the fight, but he showed so much toughness, ended up winning. So I just think he's so tough. He's so gritty. I do think Paul Craig, like you said, his only way to beat him is submission. I do think Shogun has the cardio. I mean, look at the wars he's been in with Dan Henderson, with Nogueira. How many times he fought Nogueira? 3. Like, he's fought so many trilogies. He's fought so many guys. Lyoto Machida. He's tough. These guys are built of different material, and I think Paul Craig has to submit him. He showed that he can do it, but not against a guy like Shogun. Shogun's fought so many guys. He's only been submitted a few times in his career against Chael Sonnen and Forrest Griffin. Those are the only 2 I can think of off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. But he's seen it all, and I don't think Paul Craig will offer him much more than that. I think this is a different Shogun than the one that fought Paul Craig. I don't know. I'm going to go Shogun, though. And Mike Rodriguez was the one that ultimately convinced me to switch. UFC light heavyweight. Mike Rodriguez is the one that made me switch. Also, he also said that would be his dream fight. He said, if I could fight one guy, it would be Shogun Rua. He said, if it wasn't for Shogun, I wouldn't have gotten into MMA. So I had to throw that out there. If Mike Rodriguez idolized him and is saying Shogun's going to win, I have to do it too. So Shogun Rua.
That's kind of switched my mind a little bit, because I know he's got the ability to go 3 rounds without gassing, but it's just his age. That's the reason why it's swaying me a bit towards Craig. But I think either way, I think we have got an exciting fight in our hands here, no matter the age of either guys. I know Paul Craig's not too old, but no matter the age of Shogun, I think he's still going to put on a performance.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Craig's 32 too, so he's no spring chicken. He is a lot younger than Shogun still, and hasn't been in the same amount of wars. But it's difficult, because we've seen them both. Like, Paul Craig arguably is in his prime right now. Shogun, his prime's long gone, but he still has it in him. And man, guys like Shogun, guys like Overeem, guys like Andrei Arlovski. Like, I find the second we count them out is when they go out there and shock us. So that's the reason I'm getting a lot of, like, this reminds me a lot of the Tanner Boser fight. Tanner Boser versus Andrei Arlovski, right? You got a guy that's got all this hype, momentum. He's got finishes, and then you've got a veteran of the game who's durable, who's fought everybody. And we all wrote Tanner Boser. We all thought Tanner Boser was going to get it done. I'm Canadian. I had Tanner Boser. But it just shows – and it was a close fight, but it just shows that these guys are built of something different, and they'll find it in them to win. And I think Shogun has it in him. I think it's going to be a decision, though. I don't think he's going to – but it could go either way. But Shogun for me.
100%. I could see how Shogun wins. I think it's got its slight reason. I've got a biased Brit inside of me. I'm going Craig, but either way, I do think we've got a good fight on our hands. Yeah.
And then we've got Katlyn Chookagian, who's got a quick turnaround and is facing, in my opinion, the scariest female on the UFC roster. Not based on what she does, but just her personality is so intimidating. She reminds me a lot of the Diaz brothers. It's just like, I don't give a damn. I'm willing to fight anybody. And I love it. So who do you have for this one?
I don't know. I could see how it goes both ways. I'm going Katlyn Chookagian. I think she's gonna. I don't know. This fight, it's got the ability to be a good fight, but I think it's gonna be I'm trying to think of something that's not too disrespectful. Well, I think it's going to be a bit of a bore fest. I don't think it's going to be the most exciting of fights. I think it could be a dominant display by Katlyn, but I think she's going to drag it out to the decision. I know she's fought both Shevchenko sisters this year. Obviously, the title fight against Valentina didn't go away, but she did beat Antonina. I think if you've had the experience of a title fight, it can always give you the edge, and I think I'm really torn because Cynthia, one scary person, as you said. I think she does have the ability to beat Katlyn, but I'm going for a Katlyn Chookagian via decision.
Yeah, it's a tough one because we've seen Katlyn at so many. Like, Katlyn's looked unbelievable, and then not great. Like, her last time out, obviously got finished by Jessica Andrade, who can finish, I think, anybody heavyweight down. Like, she is, if she connects, she's got so much power. So, but it is a quick turnaround for her. It's a little over a month. She's talked about possibly retiring, and usually when you say the R word, it's like one foot's already out the door.
Really the right thing.
And Cynthia Calvillo arguably hasn't lost. Like, her only loss is to Carla Esparza in a fight that I thought she won the first round 10-8. I thought she dominated that fight, that first round. Obviously, it turned around, ended up being a loss. It is what it is. She moved up to 125, looked unbelievable against Jessica Ai. Something else that people don't know about her is she has a win over Aspen Ladd, who is one of the top contenders at 135. So she's got some huge wins. She's arguably undefeated. And I think, like I said earlier, she really is as tough as they come. And I think the only way Katlyn gets it done is with a submission, and I just think Cynthia's too tough to do it. She really is. So Cynthia Calvillo, Cynthia Calvillo will win. I think it's going to be a decision, and I think it's going to earn her the title shot. I think she's next.
I can see where you're coming from there. I do agree, and I don't. I think it can go both ways for either girl. So I've just gone for a 50-50 coin toss and gone for Katlyn. Yeah,
there's some really close ones. There really is. But there are some fights that I'm biased on too. Like, the Cynthia one is definitely one. I've been a fan of hers for a long time. So usually when I break it down, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, this is Cynthia's. Like, I try to. There's definitely some bias there. And then, speaking of bias, we've got one of my favorite fighters, Mike Perry, facing Tim Means.
Yeah.
Notice how I said favorite fighters, not favorite people. There's a difference. I love Mike Perry as a fighter. His attitude's just completely different than anything we've ever seen. But he's facing a veteran in Tim Means. So who do you have for this one?
I think I was speaking to somebody else earlier, and I thought I wasn't too sure if Mike Perry was just having his girlfriend in his corner again, but I'm sure he's got 2 other people accompanying his girlfriend in the corner. So I think this is a more smart decision than last time out, but he won his last fight, so it doesn't matter who he had in his corner. Whatever he done worked. So, like I'm a big fan of Mike Perry as a fighter, but as a person, I like his loudmouthness, but it's his actions that have let it down. Like, I think it was after his last fight, obviously the video came out of him hitting somebody in a bar, which when you're representing the UFC, you can't be doing stuff like that. You're representing the highest promotion in the world. No disrespect to anyone else, but it is, and you can't be doing stuff like that. But disregarding all that, we're on about Mike Perry in the cage, and Mike Perry in the cage is a very dangerous guy. I don't see Tim Means getting through this. I think it's Perry, as we've seen, is very vicious fighter. His losses that he's had, obviously they were losses, but I think they're fights that he could have won if he had a different approach in the fight. He could have won them. But I'm going for a Mike Perry 3rd round TKO.
Yeah, I have it very similarly. Like I think Mike Perry has had some unbelievable moments inside the cage, where that Jake Ellenberger elbow, and I think a lot of people. I think he's really very, very. I think he's very, very skilled, but I think his knockouts that haven't come in like 3 years, and his attitude really is what brings people to Mike Perry fights. That being said, he's very talented. Tim Means is a veteran of the game. He's seen it all. His only losses are to a guy fighting early in the card, Daniel Rodriguez, Nico Price. Those are his 2 most recent losses. And Nico Price loss was also him fighting stupid. Mm-hmm. He had Nico Price hurt, which not many people can do, and then got careless and got caught, and obviously his leg broke. It was nasty. But Mike Perry has so much power, and all it's going to take is one punch to end it. I think Tim Means is going to try to, stay in the middle, hit him clean, come down the center, teep kicks up the center, up the middle, hit him in the face with jabs.
100%.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to beat Mike Perry. Mike Perry's going to come out there swinging, and he's going to use his size. He's huge. He's very strong, very physical. That's the key to victory for Mike Perry. I think Mike Perry is going to have an easier job doing it. I think Mike Perry was training for a guy like Robbie, who's going to come out there and swing, and I think he's going to try to do the exact same thing. And all it takes with Mike Perry is one punch. So if he fights smart, I don't think the corner is really going to play a factor in Mike Perry's. I don't think that matters to him anyway. I don't think he listens to a corner even if he has them. I think you could have Greg Jackson in the corner. He still would ignore it. Mm-hmm. So I really think it's Mike Perry versus Tim Means' game plan. And I think Mike Perry is going to come out there and I think Mike Perry's going to get it done. I think he's going to knock him out. I think 2nd round knockout for Mike Perry.
Yeah, I agree. We've both gone for a Mike Perry knockout. I've just gone for a 3rd round. I think Tim Means' toughness is going to show, and I think he's going to be able to drag it to the 3rd. But either way, like you, I do see Mike Perry getting the finish.
Yeah, it's hard to pick against guys with so much power and so much strength. I thought Mike Perry, even though he didn't have a proper corner, looked the best he's looked in a long time against Mickey Gall. Mm-hmm. He was hitting him with 70%, not 100% in every shot, and I think that's key. Yeah, I mean, Mike Perry only really needs 70% of a shot to knock someone out. He doesn't need to go for a home run shot every time. So I think that's going to be the difference. Fight smart, hit him with power, but not every shot needs to be 100%. And I think he's going to knock him out. I like Tim Means a lot too, though. So if Tim Means wins this, I'm not mad. Mm-hmm. But I love Mike Perry. So I'm rooting for Mike Perry, and I think he gets it done.
100%.
All right. Co-main event, we talked a little bit about lopsided fights only really happening on fight night cards. This is an exception. Valentina Shevchenko and Jennifer Maia is probably one of the most lopsided title fights we've seen in a long time. But we've said this before, right? We've said this before with Henan Barao when he fought DJ Dillashaw. We've said this before when George St. Pierre fought Matt. Why am I blanking on his name? Matt Serra. We've said this before. And Rose Namajunas when she fought Joanna. So we've seen upsets before. That being said, do you think Jennifer Maia is the one to do it?
Unfortunately, I can't see it happening. I can't bet against Valentina. I just think she's too dominant in that weight class for anyone in that weight class. I don't see trouble in her anytime soon. I think the only woman in the UFC that could trouble her is obviously Amanda, who she has lost to twice. But I think even a third fight between Amanda and Valentina, I think, would be very competitive. But I don't see anybody in Valentina's weight class troubling her for the title. I think, well, as you've seen, she trains over at Tag Muay Thai, and they've got the guys such as Alexander Volkanovski, my boy, and Petian. They're both very talented strikers, and if you're training people with like that regularly, you're going to pick stuff up from them. And to be honest, she doesn't even need to pick stuff up from them. She's got all the abilities she needs. I think what she's got now, I don't see anyone troubling her. I think the skills she does have is going to beat everyone in her weight class. I don't know if she'll get the finish. She's more than capable of, but I think it's gonna go for a Valentina decision.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I have different is I think she finishes it in the second round. I think Valentina is just so skilled. She's so good on the feet. She's got great wrestling. She's super strong. She's very, very good. And you mentioned Amanda Nunes. Yeah, she fought Amanda Nunes twice. She lost the second one via split decision. I thought she won it. In my opinion, they're 1-1. And like you said, I think she's the only person that poses a threat to Valentina Shevchenko. The only thing that I have here to kind of give Jennifer Maia any sort of hope is that Antonina is fighting earlier in the card. If Antonina, gets hurt, if it's a bad loss, how does that affect Valentina mentally? They never fought on the same card in MMA. So I think that's important. Some people let it get to their heads. It's happened with the Pettis brothers before. They've talked about it. To some, it doesn't even matter. I guarantee you the Diaz brothers don't give a damn. But there's some fighters it really affects them. And so we'll see. Hopefully it doesn't get to her. But that's the only way I think Valentina loses this fight is if something goes on mentally, whether it be an Antonina loss or something else. But I just think Valentina's on another level. And I think the only way to beat Valentina is Amanda Nunes or make her fight some of the men. They're at the top, the top 10. Because I think she's a top 5, top 10 male bantamweight too. And that's scary.
100%.
And then the fight, the main event, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Alex Perez. Obviously, Figgy was supposed to face Cody Garbrandt, which I thought would have been a war. But we get the next best thing. Alex Perez is no slouch. He's very, very skilled, very good. He's on a tear. He had the big win last time out with leg kicks. Who do you have for this one?
I do like this fight. I don't think it's pay-per-view main event worthy. No disrespect to the guys. I do think it could have been a better main event, but I'm not going to complain. This is a great fight, no matter where on a card or what card it's on. I think Deiveson, what a fighter. Past 2 fights against Joseph Benavidez, I'm sure he finished them both as well. I know last time out, very vicious. Heavy hands. He can do it in the cage. I don't see many. Well, there's a few people that could trouble him. I think Alex Perez, his best chance to win this, I think, is decision. I think Devison's hands are going to be too fast. They're going to be very, very heavy punches for the weight class. I think Devison's going to finish the fight, but when is the question? I'm stuck between the second and third round. I've gone for a Deiveson second round TKO, but I could see an Alex Perez decision, but I'm more leaning towards a Deiveson second round TKO.
Yeah, I'm the same boat. I was speaking to when I was speaking to Mike as well yesterday. He brought up a good point too, though. He said the one thing about Deiveson is guys like that are explosive. Like it's like he does nothing and then he explodes. Does nothing and he explodes. So if Alex Perez can time and like get a hang of when he's going to be explosive and weather those storms, I think he has a chance to win via decision. And I do really think that Alex Perez has a bigger shot in this than a lot of people are giving him credit for. That being said, Deiveson Figueiredo looked unbelievable, both like last two fights. To finish a guy like Joseph Benavidez, I mean, Benavidez was beating everybody. Everybody not named Demetrius Johnson, he was beating. And it's crazy. I mean, he was so good. The guy to win over Henry Cejudo, the list goes on and on. The guy is very, very good. But Figgy made him look awful. And I just think Deiveson's on another level, man. And he's got this confidence. He's dressing like Conor McGregor. He's got that. He looks good, man. He became champion and then instantly started looking like I don't know. It was crazy, crazy transformation. And I think his fight style also transformed. And I think he's just radiating confidence right now. And when you have that much power at 125, that much explosiveness, it's hard to write the other guy's name down. And I like Alex Perez. I think he's got a shot. I think his shot is weathering those storms and make it to a decision. I don't think he can finish Figgy. But I have Deiveson. I think Deiveson gets it done. And like you said, I think third round, late second, early third, I think he gets it done. I think he's just going to be too much for Alex Perez. Alex Perez has been finished by Joseph Benavidez. Deiveson Figueiredo.
Yeah, I do agree. I think Alex does have the ability to win. I think if he does, it's going to be via decision. But I just can't look past Figueiredo at the moment. The two fights against Benavidez, how dominant he was in the second fight as well. How well, it wasn't too quick into the first round, but it was a quick fight because it was a first round finish. Main event, five rounds. I do see Figueiredo pulling out the second round TKO. I think it is going to be a very dominant display. I think it's just the hands of Figueiredo. I can't look past him because one punch to anybody's jaw in the flyweight division, they're gonna be waking up on the canvas.
Yeah, he's got so much power. It's going to be a good night of fights. I know it's not the most stacked that we've seen a lot. We've had a lot of big pay-per-views, but this one, it's underrated. I think there's a lot of really good fights on it, and I think most casuals would overlook it. But I think for guys who really like the sport, there's a lot of good fights on this card, and we can expect to see a lot of really good ones. That being said, man, I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's late there. It's what, like 10 o'clock?
Yeah, it's 10 p.m.
It's 10. So I appreciate you jumping on, man. If you haven't yet, make sure you follow him, MMA Mason on Twitter and the Sports Sesh podcast on YouTube. He's got some good stuff. Great interview with Sam Alvey. Be sure to check that out. And man, all the best. Stay safe over there with COVID. Everything's going crazy over here. So stay safe, man. And we'll do this again sometime.
100%. I appreciate that. Cheers for having me on, man. I appreciate that. Take care.